Hello, ESGI school and district administrators. I'm excited to share with you our newest feature for school and district leaders, the ESGI Benchmarks. ESGI Benchmarks enable school and district-wide teams of educators to collect robust, standardized data across a comprehensive set of foundational skills for math and ELA. These beginning, middle, and end-of-year benchmarks can be implemented for pre-K through second grade. Benchmark data will provide you and your teachers with additional research-backed data points to evaluate student progress across the school year and help you evaluate early learner program success in ELA and math. All this combined in the same platform with the ESGI capabilities you already know and love that let you easily implement high-frequency formative assessments. Let's dig in to see how these benchmark assessments can be used. First, when you log into your administrator account, you'll need to ensure that your current school year is chosen. Then, find the Benchmarks button in the left-hand navigation bar. Once you've clicked on it, if you don't have any benchmarks set up yet, you'll see an introduction page that gives you a quick overview of what the benchmark tests are. Go ahead and click on the Setup Benchmarks button. A control panel pops out for you on the right-hand side of the screen. This control panel allows you to choose which grade levels you'll be administering benchmarks for and what dates your windows will be open for each testing administration. Note that testing windows cannot be longer than 40 days. We recommend testing windows in the September, January, and May timeframes, but of course, you should judge for yourself what works best for your school or district. After setting testing windows, you can choose whether the benchmarks are still visible for teachers after the window closes. We highly recommend you check this box. It allows teachers to continue to access student data for the benchmarks on their dashboards after the window is over. However, if for some reason you don't want that level of transparency, you can uncheck the box. Last but not least, you can either publish benchmarks for all schools or choose a subset of schools who should be administering them. Once the benchmarks have been set up, your screen will populate with a number of new items. On the left-hand navigation bar, you'll see an icon for each benchmark assessment window you've set up. Clicking on one of these will then populate the screen with some data and a list of all the foundational skill tests you can choose to include or exclude from the benchmark assessment in that window. The data at the top of the screen shows you when the testing window you've selected is scheduled, how many students have tested, the average score, the latest test date, and the average session duration. The list of tests shows you the name of the test, the type of test, the number of students tested thus far, and the average score of the students that tested. You can also toggle whether a test is enabled or disabled in the benchmark window by clicking on the power icon to the left of the test name. And finally, you can also see all the test details, including test items and a preview of the test interface by clicking on the question card icon on the far right. From the administrative perspective, those are all the controls which allow you to design your benchmark program in exactly the way you'd like. For a list of every test available for each grade, along with descriptions, you can visit the ESGI Help Center. Now let's dig into the teacher view of the test so you can understand what your teachers will see once you've set up benchmarks and how they're different from standard ESGI tests. The teacher view of benchmarks is very similar to the standard teacher view of other tests in ESGI, with some key differences. When you first log into the teacher account, teachers who have had benchmark tests assigned to their students will see a new orange subject tab marked with a B for benchmarks. When I select the Benchmarks tab, I'll be able to see the benchmarks that currently have an open testing window or benchmarks that my administrator has allowed me to continue to view after the window has closed. Any benchmark that is already closed will be view only and not editable. If I choose a student and then click on a current benchmark, my screen populates with all the tests I'm expected to administer my student as part of that benchmark period. At the top, I'll also see the date by which I need to complete testing and how many days left I have. When I'm ready to test a student, I can click on the Test button on one of the test cards. Your teachers will notice a few differences between the benchmark tests and the other tests on ESGI due to the fact that benchmarks need to be standardized. These differences include the fact that I must test students on all questions in a benchmark, and I can't shuffle the order of questions. When the teacher is ready to start the test, they click the Start button and administer the test as usual. Again, for the purposes of standardization, there are key differences in test administration and post-test management for benchmarks. The main difference between the administration of a benchmark test and the administration of the other ESGI tests is that questions cannot be skipped on benchmark tests, and for the few benchmark tests where a manual test session can be added, teachers are not able to choose Not Tested as an option for any of the questions. After the session is complete, another difference between benchmarks and any other ESGI test is that a benchmark test cannot be administered again for the same student in the same benchmark window. This is because benchmarks are meant to be a standardized indicator of student knowledge at a certain point in time. Last but not least, the teacher is unable to edit benchmark test sessions as they can with other tests, again, for the purposes of standardization. Now that we see how benchmarks get set up and what's different about how teachers administer them, let's take a look at how benchmarks data populates in the administrator dashboard. The best place to get a quick, at-a-glance view of benchmark data is on the benchmark page where benchmark progress and performance data are shown. The main page shows all of the benchmarks that have been assigned across your district, along with summary data for each, including the number of students tested and average scores. Once you click into each test, you will see a more detailed breakdown of data by school, assessors, and students, with additional detailed data for each breakdown. In addition to the benchmark-specific reports, benchmarks data can be populated into all of your favorite ESGI reports. All you need to do is select the benchmark you want to see from the drop-down in whichever report you're viewing. For example, here's a screenshot showing the school totals report and another showing the item analysis report. In fact, benchmark data can populate in all your favorite student, class, and school reports, including the parent letter, class grades, and flashcards. As you can see, ESGI benchmarks are a plug-and-play option to provide you and your teachers with additional standardized assessment data points to evaluate student progress across the school year. For more information about ESGI benchmarks, please visit our ESGI support portal at https://info.esgisoftware.com/support.